Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to talk about your dog playing you for a fool. It happens. It happens. There's a lot of dogs that are smart enough to play their owners for a fool. You see, dogs, what does they say about humans? That 90% of communication is nonverbal or something like that. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if it's 80%, 90%, whatever. But we're told that a big part of our communication is nonverbal. And I totally believe that to be true. Totally believe that to be true. I think we as people, we learn nonverbal cues from other people, and we don't often even recognize it, but, we don't recognize the communication, but we still communicate, and that's a big part of how we communicate. Well, dogs are the same way. Most of their communication and most of their understanding of our communication is nonverbal. And so they see our movements and they interpret them, and they see patterns within those movements and patterns within how we say things. And this is what allows us to train them, but it also is what allows them to play us for fools sometimes. Let me give you some examples. Like, I remember one of the first examples I ever learned, this would have been over 20 years ago now, when I was first working for a dog trainer. I saw a dog get corrected, and the dog started limping. And I was like, oh no, the dog got hurt. And the owner had given the dog like a correction with the leash, right? Quick little tug on the leash. It wasn't even much, if I recall. But anyways, whether it was a lot or little doesn't matter. But the dog started limping. He put his paw up and he was limping. And I was like, talking to the trainer there, I'm like, oh my gosh, the dog, he's hurt. He's limping. And he's like, no, he's not hurt. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, dogs will often do this. They'll often limp. They'll pull up their paw to kind of play on their owners, because it's a very simple thing that dogs will do. And what's the response that owners will often do when they see a dog kind of start limping? Is they'll be like, oh my gosh, my poor puppy. Things like this. And so that gets logged away, and a lot of dogs will start pulling that out when they want that sympathy, when they don't, when they feel like their owner's upset with them or something like that, they'll start limping so that they can change the tune of the owner. It sounds devious, right? It's not. It's just opportunistic. It's the same type of stuff that we as people pull all the time with spouses and loved ones and kids and colleagues. But that's one that I see all the time. Another one that I see all the time that I don't even think is voluntary most of the time, I think a lot of it's in the person's head, is they see the dog, like one thing that we teach a lot, you can see chocolate chips there in her bed, is we teach a dog to do place, to go to their bed and stay. And oftentimes, the dog's staying there in their bed, doing perfectly fine, and the owner looks over, and the dog's face is like, looking all sad, or the owner thinks it does. I often look at it and they're like, oh, my poor puppy, he's so sad on his bed. And I'm like, he just looks like he's lying on his bed. But, the owner either interprets it, or the dog is actually making a face like, oh, I'm sad, because the dog realizes, if I make this face, my owner will give me attention, and I win. I feel so good getting this attention. And so you'll see dogs like make little faces or cock their head one way or the other, because they've recognized that if I do this, I can get the attention I want, or I can not be in trouble or something like that. And they're playing their owners. Now I could give you a dozen more, instances, things like whining, things like jumping on the owner, things like, there's several things that dogs will do in order to play on the emotions of their owner. Sometimes I play it, sometimes I fall for it. Because sometimes that dog is just so darn cute, right? But it's important to not fall for these things. It's important to understand the communication our dog is giving us. It can be tough, when folks are sitting there and they're so sad because their dog's over there pouting when he's really just taking a nap on his bed. It can be hard to kind of convince somebody that no, the dog's fine. And so the thing that we have to ask ourselves in these situations, is the dog in physical distress? So is he limping for real? Or is he in emotional or mental distress? Like, is he really struggling, or is he just trying to play you a little bit and kind of get his way? If the dog is playing you and you recognize it and you give in, and this happens all the time people realize, I know he's playing me, but he's just so cute. You're setting yourself up for the wrong type of relationship. You're setting yourself up for, imagine if that was, maybe you shouldn't imagine this, because a lot of people have this type of relationship. But I was going to say, imagine with your spouse, if you or your spouse was constantly trying, or frequently trying to get attention through little manipulative tactics. Now, we as people, we're moral agents. We understand that there's a certain ethic and morality that goes behind manipulating somebody, but that doesn't exist in our dogs. They're not even trying to manipulate, for the sake of manipulation. They're just opportunistic and trying to get their way. And when people are opportunistic and try to get their way, they can at least recognize it and catch themselves. The dog's not going to recognize it. But like I say, imagine that was your relationship where it was this constant manipulation or frequent manipulation. That's not healthy. It's not a healthy relationship between you and a spouse. It's not a healthy relationship between you and a dog. So watch it. Don't let your dog play you.